Hey, Professor Dave here. This is video 1 of 3 in a series about making PDF presentations. The first video will be focused on setting up presentation pages, with 2 more videos to follow. So we're setting up presentation pages with the goal of exporting them to PDFs for sharing. Now, this is a critical skill that many designers misunderstand or just plain ignore. So before we get any further, let me give you an example of a presentation page or layout. So we'll cover this in more detail in the following videos, but we have the basics here, which is a title at the top, some text for descriptions. We have images, we got call outs with little arrows, that's the text there. So our focus will be on making presentations for products, pitches, and portfolios. So it's all about communication. These settings I'll be sharing with you in the next couple videos are not for something much larger like posters or billboards. So I mentioned we're going to be exporting to PDFs. Why, you ask? First of all, it's free. Secondly, they're universal, which means you can look at a Mac, PC, and any mobile device. And they have excellent high-quality output. So this works whether it's on a screen like we're looking at now, or printing. Now, this is not a reason, more of a reminder. PDFs are not PowerPoint. This is like confusing a JPEG with a Microsoft Word document. Separate entities and documents. So there'll be 3 parts we're going to cover here for setting up your document. First is the page size. I'm going to recommend we go 8.5 by 11 landscape. Let's talk about this briefly. If you decided to go with a larger sheet, maybe your reason is, oh, I'll fit more stuff. I want you to remember the person receiving it may want to print it. Probably not, but in the rare occasions, if you have a giant sheet and they try to print it, all your text is now squeezed down to its unreadable size. That brings up the question of, hey, I got more stuff. Where does it go? Just add another page or 2. That's all you got to do. So in case you're not aware, landscape does mean horizontal, and we're doing this to mimic the screen that most people will be looking at. Portrait just means vertical, and this is the orientation where most people read, like in books. The second thing we have to be concerned about is resolution. Now, there's a wide variety of resolution depending on what you're looking at, and even those can change. It varies from about 72 pixels per inch on old monitors to well over 500 or 600 pixels per inch for mobile devices. I'm going to recommend you stick with 300. This will look good both on screens in any size and on print. I'm just covering all the bases. So if we do some simple math, we have a size, we have a resolution, then the documents will be 3,300 pixels wide, landscape, and 2,550 tall. One note here, if you're working with Adobe InDesign, you don't need to set up the resolution. We'll get to that in just a minute. So a quick recap, our PDFs will be set up 11 by 8.5 inch, landscape format, 3,300 by 2,550 pixels. So the file size will need to be under 25 megabytes ideally to get through all email servers. But I've seen many 10 and 20 page documents get under 10 megabytes and still look fantastic. So we're going to be focusing on 3 of the Adobe apps, Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. These are the industry standard, so use them if at all possible. Other apps, I have seen people just end up with weird or random sizes, so you got to be extra careful when you set those documents up. So let's go through the settings first in Photoshop. File, New, and we're going to go over here on the right side. It's now set up for pixels. I'm just going to set it for inches. It's a little bit easier. We want to go 11 by 8.5. And make sure your orientation is horizontal landscape. For resolution, this is where we type into 300. Color mode is actually pretty important. We're not going to be printing 90+% of the time. So let's just go with RGB color. Hit create, and now you've got a blank document. That's it for Photoshop. Okay, we're in Illustrator, which is very similar since it's both are from Adobe. Same process, File, New. We want to make sure it's the horizontal orientation. 11 wide by 8.5 tall is correct. Switch that to RGB color. And the resolution, which they call raster effects, is 300. So just hit create, and you've got a brand new document. So the last application I'm going to set up a new document is in InDesign. There's going to be a little bit of a twist here, and I would like to say at this time, this is my favorite by far. The features and controls just make it so much easier to lay stuff out. So let's just jump in and I'll talk about what I like. So we'll do the same exact steps. File, New. We'll pick Document. We have a variety of units to choose from. I'm just going to go to the same inches we've been using before. Orientation, very similar. Now, facing pages can be confusing. It just means that you're going to design them in pairs for a book, which we're not. So it's uncheck that. And what's really cool is it even lets you do margins. So a little bit of research turned up that most printers will go up to 1/4 inch. So something between 1/4 and 1/2 inch is ideal. Notice that there is no resolution. Why? InDesign is really cool in that it lets you put elements and graphics at any resolution you want, and then you can export to any other resolution or multiple resolutions if you do separate documents. Here, we just want to hit Create and have a brand new document. You can even set up multiple pages, which is one of the reasons I love it. So that covers the 3 basic apps that I use to create brand new presentation pages. Now, I know you may not like those or use them, but remember, these are industry standard for a reason. Your next employer will be using it. Here's the summary of all the requirements we've covered. 11 by 8.5 inches, landscape format, and at 300 pixels per inch, that will give us 3,300 wide by 2,550 tall. And our goal is to get under 10 megabytes, if at all possible. So this concludes the first video, setting up your presentation page. Coming up next, if you're interested, is recommended presentation layouts. So in that next video, we'll get into a lot of details about what makes good graphics. That's it.